Hello and welcome to Celtic World. Did anybody else hear that intro?
Yep.
Yeah, I did hear the intro.
Oh, I didn't hear a thing. I was wondering the whole time what's going wrong. Well, that's a great start.
That
hello,
is a good
everyone.
start, Gav.
Ground control to Major Gav. Yeah.
Yes. Hello and welcome to Celtic World, the YouTube channel for Celtic fans all over this rock hurtling through space that we call home. Now is a good time to contemplate such things, I think, puts our earthly little emotional concerns into perspective. Wouldn't you say? Okay,
Yes.
so here we are, as usual, going live at this time. Here are the times now updated to include American Eastern Standard Time, which is also Pittsburgh. There, as you can see, 5:30. Unlikely there's too many of them tuning in live. I would have thought people on the East Coast of the States down away.
Yeah, doubtful. Unless they're like my dad and they wake up at just the absolute butt crack of dawn. I doubt most people are kind of like that, Up and at 'em at 5,
Never heard that before. The butt crack of dawn. That's a new
butt
one.
crack of dawn, man. Yeah.
That's a Danoism. You'll get used to those, Brian. They flow
there you
around
go.
the place a little bit. Yeah, a Danoism.
Fantastic. Well,
I didn't make that up. I did make that up.
Two bitches in the bitch boat is the leader contender for me so far. But
Yeah. Something
here's
that
the
hurts
butt
like
crack of
two
dawn.
bitches on a bitch boat, man. Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, let's bring some order back into proceedings. Welcome, everyone, in the comments. Let us know in the comments if there are any audio issues that you're experiencing that we aren't. It's sometimes very difficult to tell from our point of view what things sound like. If you're watching this live and are already on the chat, there's a fair chance you're already a subscriber. Thank you. Otherwise, please consider subscribing. Also, do us a favor and share the gospel with others that you know. A good way of doing that is picking a short highlight video from our YouTube channel and sending someone that link and say, have you watched these guys? Because there's quite a lot of little short highlights on the YouTube channel. That would be fab. What isn't fab is the current mood. It's fair to say, following our game with the mattress makers who delivered a merciless shafting to us. We have had a couple of days of mourning, and while we will deal with the game, of course, the aim of this show is to just open the curtains a little bit, let a shaft of light into the room, make you feel a little bit better about things, but not by sugarcoating, of course. So let's get on with it. We're going to have to talk about the Atletico game. Now, full disclosure, I watched this the following morning with a cup of coffee and, media blackout prior to watching it. And I watched the first half and the events of the first half unfolded, and then it got to halftime and I just thought, oh, geez, I'm going to check the score. So I checked the score and then didn't watch the second half, and I've still not seen the second half. I can't bring myself to watch it. So you're going to be telling me what happened, guys. So let's get into it. Starting lineup. Should we start there? Paul, any surprises in the starting lineup for you?
Absolutely none. It's exactly the team that I thought would start. Before I get into that, though, I would have to say that you definitely probably picked the better option. I was up at 4 a.m., same time zone as you. I awoke to strange issues going on because Optus, the second biggest telecoms company in Australia, was down nationwide. And I was stupid enough to be an Optus customer on both my phone and on my internet. So I missed the first 5-6 minutes because I had to go find my work phone, who's luckily on another provider, set up my app on there and log in and use there. So thanks, work, for allowing me to watch the game. And I switched it on and literally the first goal went in. So that was great. So no surprises in the line. So yeah, absolutely shit. No surprises in the lineup. I expected Bernardo to come in basically on the work rate that he provided in more of his defensive side of things. The wings, were as they were. I don't think there were really any other surprises or any other potential changes of note that anyone was expecting, unless somebody thought you were going to suddenly go to a back three from the first minute, or play up two up front. Which, I'll be honest, neither of those things I was expecting to happen. So it was exactly as I thought.
All right, so the starting lineup, no great surprises. Also, the first half, I would say, no great surprises. Celtic knock it about quite nicely, but ineffectively, really. No real end product. They score a couple of goals with superior quality to ours. What's the first thing that happened in the game of note, Brian? Their first goal that Paul just
Well,
alluded to. How did that come
no,
about? How known was that?
I have a wee bit of detail. I watched it on CBS as opposed to watching it on TNT. For the reason being is Joe didn't want John Hart's an emotional commentary. So remember Alan Parry used to do BBC, I think. So watched it that. Again, looking through it, first sort of 5 minutes, controlled possession. Hugh McGregor gave away a corner, and at that level, 5 minutes in, and I was thinking to myself, this is not looking good. McGregor gave away a poor header. Is also Hart was slow to get down, a bit flat. O'Reilly had a couple of good opportunities. Palm had a shot, and then the inevitable, Dyson, which never for me, never.
Which happened first, the red card or the first goal?
Penalty. The goal happens first. It's pretty much the first thing of much note. We looked reasonably comfortable until that point.
I was 15 minutes. Yeah, Dyson was sent off for 15 minutes. Yeah.
Well, no. All right. Well, let's talk about the goal first of all. Didn't that all stem from a weak punch from Hart, Dano?
Pretty much. I mean, it all flows from there. That goal is just so important because if you're away to a team like Atleti, you've got to come out on the front foot to even have a chance in the opening minutes, and to have them score off of us that early, it was just, yeah. And I mean, the punch was weak, but I don't know. It was tough.
McGregor's head is the worst part of that. His head is really, really poor.
You can't.
Griezmann's unmarked and no pressure on it, and then to add insult to injury, which you don't notice on probably first or second viewing, but from behind the goal, it's really, really clear. It flicks off Cameron Carter-Vickers on the way through, and that definitely deviates it beyond Hart. At first, I thought, Hart's maybe getting down a bit slow. And maybe he is, maybe at his peak, he gets fingertips to that, but he's got it fully covered until it nicks off CCV on the way through, and that just deviates the ball beyond his reach, and it's another hard luck story.
So typical bad luck. Yeah, exactly. Celtic.
Right.
All right. And then, so was it bad luck or was it sheer stupidity, Brian, then that your friend Dyson Mieda went and did that? And when are we going to hear that song? I didn't mean to put you off. You were halfway through recording a song about.
I'll re-record. Maybe Dano can help me with that. I just, he was getting booted as well. A few times up the wing. I thought it was 50.
He's got a penalty shout before that.
Yeah,
he's got a penalty shout before that.
Yeah, definitely. I've put that down for review. I don't know. I think it was okay. They were looking at it, and then the Atleti bench were sort of hemming and hawing and motioning towards the VAR official, which put pressure on them. Then the Atleti fans were giving it a bit. I thought, as Brendan says, it was like fantasy football. It was like video football, the way they were getting on. They just need to make a decision in the moment. They were influenced by. I mean, Maeda is not a dirty player. Like he's a fast player. He's a headless chicken sometimes, but he's certainly not a dirty player. And they sucked us in.
You don't need to be a dirty player to be caught with a silly challenge. But and your comments on Monday night, Gav, sort of were a little bit ahead of play, because you did talk about is the Ross County player unlucky? I think the difference is that one is more straight leg and it catches him further up. And whilst I don't think there was intent or malice, I don't think he went to do him. I think that is a red. But the position around how a still makes things look is absolutely spot on. And Brendan's comments were absolutely spot on as well, because he said the first thing that VAR showed the ref when he came across was a still of the studs on the foot. So that's just, he's now got a preconceived position that's a bad challenge. He's seen it in real time and he made the right decision. It was a yellow card all day long. Meira's not attempting to make contact with a player. He's as he always does. He's closing down space. He's putting pressure on. He throws out a leg to block the ball forward, and his momentum brings his foot towards the ATLCEL player, Hermons. I'm not gonna. Anyway, I've made a pig's ear of that. Anyway, and he actually, like, if you can view it two ways, you can say Meira comes down and hits the top of his foot, but equally, Meira's foot lying out there. It's his follow through that kicks into the bottom of his studs. So there's fast movement by both players in this, and that's got to be part of the assessment. And for the VAR to then drag you across, look at the screen, and the very first thing that's shown is a still of what admittedly looks like a bad contact. It's completely out of context. The ref has seen the context. And this is where VAR, to me, is all over the place at the minute. It's supposed to be interfering when it's a clear and obvious error or dangerous play. And I don't think this is either. This is a coming together at high speed, and there's no force behind Meira's like it's just hanging out the side. It's not even coming in straight, but where he's stopped that still, it makes it look bad. And once that's in his mind and VAR's telling him, I think you probably need to review this, we all know how VAR works. Once the referee gets told he should review it, 99 times out of 100, they're going with that decision. So there's lots of stuff with VAR at the minute in all levels of football that's using it, and none of it's particularly positive. And it's really, really disappointing on a broader story, because I'm still an advocate for VAR should be an addition to the game, but the way it's being utilized at the minute is it's shocking, and it's really ruining the game as a spectacle. We all knew, like, it's hard enough to go to ATLCEL with 11 men, with the difference in class and cash and all the rest of it. You lose a goal after 6 minutes, it's harder still, and then you lose one of your key players after less than 20. The game's a bogey at that point. We all knew what was coming. It was just a matter of time. And Brendan knew it as well. And I'll get into that in a bit. But he basically chucked it at 60 minutes. He chucked it at 3-0. And so you can discuss the merits of that, but that's what happened.
Should I'd sat down? Sorry, Gav. Should he have laid down and played for the foul? You know what I mean? Should he got up too quick, in my opinion. He should have just he should have arrived in agony. Maybe a bit more streetwise.
There's definitely a case there, but it's a broader story as well. Gav, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, the important thing is my prescient comments on Monday. Let's get back to that. That's the big story. The fact that we were talking about VAR and how still images, don't tell half the story. They provide a false impression on the mind, and then for that to suddenly be now spoken about by everyone is
it's a major story. It's the major story coming out of that game.
You see all these people who don't know which Celtic YouTube live stream to be watching. If there's clashes, to ask yourself this question: do you want to be ahead of the game, or do you just want to hear the same old blah blah playing catch up? That's what I would say. Okay, but enough about me. Let's get back to the Atletico game. All right, so that happened. Maid is off. We all know it's the end. It's a disaster. But we're trying to limp through to halftime without conceding another. And then we do concede another, Dano, and I can hardly remember that goal. Can you remind me about it?
Look, I'm gonna be 100% honest. I basically did the same thing as you, Gav. And after Maeda went off,
what are we doing here?
I basically
me and Brian watching the fucking match.
I basically just had it going on in the background, just like, and then halftime game, Paul, and I was done. But
Paul watched
so the second goal, there's not much you can say. I think it's like it comes as recycling from a corner, which comes from a really good save. A bit of a scrambled save by Joe Hart, but he turns one around the corner, which otherwise, was heading into his near post. There's a corner from there. It gets recycled. It ends up the right touchline. Griezmann slings a ridiculous cross in. The only criticism you could say is that
it was a lovely ball by Griezmann.
It's an amazing ball, but AJ and CCV are both caught ball watching, and they don't, they miss them. The man runs off the back of AJ, and CCV's lost his man inside. But yeah, the wide left player, breaks the lines, heads across. He gets furthest ahead of the play, but he's onside.
Yeah.
And he heads the ball
All right.
flat, and Morata's behind it when it comes in, and he's got basically a tap in from there. It's well constructed
All right.
goal. And this ball's ridiculous, but the defender's poor.
So it was 2-0 at half time. There's no point in going through all the goals then in the second half. Unless there are specific instances anyone really wants to talk about.
For me,
more to the. Go ahead.
Sorry, you go. No, I was just going to say that there was a theme in the second half of, one, we rode our luck. It could have been far worse. Two, Hart had quite a few good saves that kept the score down. And three, when Brennan made the subs at an hour, when it went to 3-0, as I said, he chucked it. And that message seemed to be accepted by the players because they chucked it as well. The defending from 3-0 onwards, and even at 3-0, the goal that goes in at 3-0, it's shocking. Like, there's no pressure on the ball. Nobody knows who's picking up whom. They're all looking at each other. Nobody's taking responsibility. There's no leadership. There's no desire. I understand the game's gone at that point, but there's guys there who've come off the bench who are presumably looking to try and break into this team. And I think O is probably the only one that comes out with some credit because he put a shift in up there. And late on, he takes on 3 players, turns them, and eventually wins a foul. And, he kept going. But some of the midfield and those guys that came on, pretty poor. Like, I think it's either the 4th or 5th goal when it's hit from the edge of the box. Morata's second. And he's beyond both Iwata and Home. And only once he's just about to put his laces through it, did they both realise that there's a threat and run towards him, by which time it's rippling in the back of the net. It's really poor. Scales is ball watching for Griezmann's second. It drops in the box. AJ, he's got a weak header for the one that's bent. Ends up back at his side, and the guy bends it around him into the far corner. It's a really good finish. Lima, I think, the guy that came off the bench. It's a great finish. But he's had a really crap header out to the edge of the box. A guy sort of slides it across to him. He gets back to his man, but he stands off him. Usual story, hands behind the back, hoping not to give away a penalty, not enough pressure on the ball. And the guy just uses him as a sort of angle and bends it around him. It's right in the top corner. Hart's got no chance. Just really, really, really poor defending and no desire. And I get it's a long, hard shift, but there's people that spent a fortune to get out there, used up leave, used up credit, and all this stuff. And they deserve a wee bit better than the manager and the players chucking it at half an hour. I get it. It sort of makes sense because we've got a big game on the weekend, but it's not great. It's not a great look.
I was worried it was going to be 9-0 or something.
Could have been.
I was actually
could have
happy
easily been.
I wrote down 62 minutes. This could be 5 or 6. And then when I'm on the BBC Sport and it was 6-0, it was like, thank God. I really was worried that we could have been double figures.
6.
Seriously.
Oh, so you didn't finish either, Brian? You didn't finish either?
I'm sorry. At 65 minutes, I lasted
Only
65 minutes.
No.
All
those
the bloke up at 4 o'clock in the morning is the only guy that watched the game.
What you're talking about?
Yeah.
I can't do it. It's too hard. It's too hard.
It's too painful. All right. So it's painful, but most of us kind of knew we were probably going to lose that game. Only one of us predicted we would lose by multiple goals and not score ourselves, but there's no need to go back to my prescience. So the question is, what did we learn? What have we learned from that game that we didn't already know? Brian, what have you learned from that game? The bits that you watched.
But the 65 minutes that I watched, again, I think we need to become more streetwise and bring in the dark arts. And I've got a thing here. Is McGregor beyond criticism? I don't hear anybody.
Doesn't sound like it.
No.
I've heard him. I've seen some criticism of him since. I'll tell you who I've seen criticism of him. We can weave this into the conversation. Hart, totally exposed at this level. I see people saying Johnson loses his man far too easily, and a few crunching tackles cannot disguise that he has become another Ralston. Bernardo never does anything. Those are main criticisms I've seen on social media, and
Yeah.
I can't comment because I didn't see the second half. But I mean, how bad was Joe Hart?
I don't think he's that
Paul,
bad.
you said he made a bunch of saves.
I don't think he's that bad. Like he's barely. I don't think there's not a single goal where you would go, he's the primary issue. Not a single goal. Like I said, lack of pressure, poor marking, generally just sloppy defending, and some really good finishing. Like it shouldn't be. They're a good side. Their front 3, 4, Riquelme, Morata,
So fast,
Correa,
aren't they? The speed
Correa,
that they move
Griezmann.
at,
So
crazy.
that 4, and I don't even know how they're so fluid. I don't even know exactly where they're playing, but those 4 at least. And look, Carmack he's had a reasonably poor game, but he did redeem himself almost immediately. Like 12th minute, they have that sort of massive break up the pitch. Riquelme sort of interlinks, and then he has the and Carl gets right back, and it's a brilliant block. That's a goal otherwise, probably. So I think it's easy in the aftermath of a big defeat to look for scapegoats, blame, all the negatives, and it's easy to find them, right? That there's plenty, and I'm not saying there isn't. Well, I guess what I'm saying is there are, little pockets of positivity kicking around in there, but not much. But I think there's two major issues at play in the post-match sort of analysis of this, and the main one that people are focusing on is it's done it to death. I'm sick hearing about it. We all know it. The board don't invest the money. There's a ton of cash in the bank. Blah blah blah. I'm not even going to go any further. We all know that's an issue and it needs to be dealt with. Nobody's got an answer on that. But there's a separate issue in this specific game in terms of I'm with Brian. We got absolutely shafted by VAR in this game, and I'm not going to sit here and say we get a result if we keep 11 players on the pitch, but we're certainly going to be more competitive. They were terrified of Maeda, and I've got no doubt Simeone is a master of the dark arts. I have absolutely no doubt that they, as part of their overall strategy, was to try and get players booked and sent off. And I guarantee that that's not part of Celtic's strategy. It just isn't. Yeah. We're naive at this level. We're too honest, too nice, whatever you want to say. I like that, but it's not going to get us anywhere because the game is an absolute bogey in this environment. Histrionics, play acting. It's always been there in Europe. We've got a long history with Atletico Madrid, and it's just, it's coming round again. I think it was either Simeone or one of his coaching staff was halfway down the touchline, miles out of his technical area, remonstrating when that challenge went in, and then they were all congregating around the ref and telling him to go to VAR, and obviously VAR then did his job. This ref's got previous, he had Ronnie Delia had a terrible sort of thing with a red card with Virgil back in the day, and I thought the ref was poor. Like, as I say, there's that challenge on Maeda early. It's there's a shout potentially for a penalty. It's at least a corner because it comes off. It's either it's a handball after that, and then it hits me. So I don't know. Like, I just think he was poor, but he was easily swayed by VAR. But there's two major issues at play, and one is, and Brian's alluded to it, we're not smart enough in Europe, regardless of. In part of that's why we keep getting players sent off, and then there's a bigger issue about investment. But I'm bored to tears by that discussion.
Paul, did you think the referee looked a bit like Ronnie Deila? I actually had him in notes. He was from Slovenia, and the thing about it is, you had a Dutch linesman. I would have thought the Dutch league is better than the Slovenian league. So again, another smaller nation.
The other thing I would say about this is there's an irony here that should be lost on none of us, in that we are now when we step up to the Champions League, we're exactly like the rest of the Scottish League think of us. They think we get all the decisions. They think we've got the massive gulf in class and cash. It's an unfair playing field, and then we step up to Champions League and we've got all the same complaints. So that's an irony not lost on me. But I do feel like it's a valid concern because I just think he was poor, and the way that VAR handled that incident, which completely turned the game, and sort of wrote it off as a contest. I think they're too good a side to not win that match with 11-11.
Yeah.
But I think we would have at least made it respectable and it'd be competitive. We might have even scored a goal. So yeah, he just ruined it as a contest, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious, like, given what else has happened in the chaotic VAR universe this week, have we kind of reached it seems like the wider football world is kind of reaching an inflection point with this. I mean, for anybody who watched the Tottenham Chelsea game on Monday night in London, that was the most chaotic first half of football I think I've ever watched. And it was like 15 minutes of VAR time. The first half ended up being like over 60 minutes. And it was all down to VAR. I don't know. It's clearly not working. And I think a lot of people are just talking openly about it. I mean, people, not
what
just
changes
managers.
could be instituted to VAR then to make it more workable? I mean, it's been
You've
used
got to
too
mic up the
frequently for
refs.
all the wrong kind of
Yeah,
incidents.
mic up the
Mic up
refs.
the refs. That's one.
You've got to mic up the refs. That's number one. Then you've got transparency. That's one of the best things about
Yes.
it in rugby union.
Yes.
And yeah, you've got to get that. You've got to get the use of it clearer. Much more clear, because there's no way that that's a clear and obvious point that or dangerous play that she's. I don't know. Like some of the who are like the thing is we say VAR isn't working. It's not VAR isn't working. VAR's a concept with some technology. It's the idiots that are humans that are working it and applying their interpretation of the rules that aren't working. Are these guys, and they're faceless, they're in a cupboard somewhere, in Scotland, Andrew Dallas can't be a referee, but he can be the head of the VAR crew. It's that kind of nonsense will be happening all over the place.
Yeah.
We need quality. I'd even put ex-players potentially on VAR, like, because at least then they understand collisions, speed, movement. Put some ex-players through their refereeing and stick them in the VAR room, and then you've got a bit of balance. I don't know. It works really, really well in other sports. So I'm loath to say a lot of people are out there going, get rid of it. It's ruined the game. Just get rid. That's the only solution. I don't think it is. I think it can make the game better. Simple things like goal line technology and proper offside technology, like it's used in the Champions League with the 3D and all that, not the cheap ass version we've got in Scotland, but where you might be at the back of a stadium on the other side of the pitch before you get the angle. All of that stuff is a matter that stuff's a matter of kind of fact. It's the interpretation stuff that's the issue, and that's got to be around guidelines and how you apply them. So I think it absolutely can be better. And I don't think it's not going to go backwards, but it's great that there is a conversation about it, particularly in things like the Champions League and the English Premier League, because that's the level it needs to happen at with focus before anything will change. Nobody's going to change anything based on what's happening in Scotland. Essentially, we're a backwater.
See, you look at tennis, Hawkeye doesn't impact. You're talking about 8 seconds. Is it in or is it out? I think VAR should only be used for. Is it offside? Yes, no. There should be like a 10-second, 15-second window. I mean, at the minute, it's like Celtic need to score 3 goals to get 1 goal. Because, I mean, the Ross County game, 2 goals disallowed or 2 goals written off as a VAR. I've seen them given on other days.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Consistency is the major issue, right? The sharp pull in. 1 week it's a penalty, depending on who's playing. The next week it's nothing, depending on who's playing. That sort of stuff.
Its application needs to be limited to just a few specific circumstances. I would say, but somehow we need to reduce its impact on the game. Yeah. I don't know if we want to go down the route of, like, Dano, you're an American. American sports, do they have like limited number of, the manager can call 3 times or something for, that kind
challenges.
of stuff?
Yeah, in certain sports, I think that's like an NFL rule where the
cricket's got that, right?
Yeah,
cricket's got I think 2 or 3 depending on the length of form in the game.
Happening too many times. There's too many decisions are taken out of the referee's hands and made by someone else and affected by stills, and it's warping the reality to an unacceptable extent.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's point about like transparency and how it does tend to work with other sports and the fans are not this upset is a very, very good point. And I'm not saying get rid of all replay or any of this technology, but the way it's going right now is just a total mess, and nobody really knows from league to league or even game to game what's going on, how it's going to be applied. But yeah, maybe like a challenge rule where, the manager has like a challenge and he can use it, but you don't really have timeouts in football. So how that would be applied is a different matter. Like in the NFL, if they challenge something and he gets it wrong, then he gets penalized a timeout, which can be big at the end of a game in American football. But you don't really have anything you can apply that to in
other sports, though.
football.
The way it works is you got your challenges. If you challenge and you're right, you retain your challenge, and if you challenge or you're wrong, the challenge, you lose it. So if you're frivolous, they're going to be used up pretty quickly.
Right.
Look, I just think the issue, and I think the other issue with VAR is it ultimately, a lot of us were overseas or whatever. We all, most of us will watch predominantly these games on the TV. We've got more clarity on what's going on than the people that actually fort their money out and go every week. They're sitting in a stadium going, absolutely no idea what's going on. The big screen might say something's pending. There's no replay. They've got no comms. Refs aren't communicating. And then suddenly there's a decision and, that's it. Every goal in a stadium, you celebrate and then you're like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have celebrated. Like, it's just ruining the atmosphere.
Oh yeah, totally.
We've moved past the point where it's always stuff is going to be reviewed on goals. So that celebration and spontaneity is kind of gone, but it's got to be quick and it's got to be accurate. And it's just really flawed at the minute. And the worrying thing for me is, yes, we've only had it a year in Scotland, but other leagues and other, I think the Premier League's had it 5-6 years, and other divisions that, other comps that took it early. It doesn't seem to be getting, but in fact, it might possibly be getting worse, which is, most of these other sports had issues in the first sort of 6 to 12 months and then ironed it out with clear guidelines and improvement.
Right.
And football every year just seems to make more of a hash of it, which
can you guys
there's no transparency, man. There's no transparency. Like that was one eye-opening thing. I went to a league rugby game down in New Zealand years ago, and like the ref was like mic'd up. You could hear what's going on. Nobody everybody was kind of listening into that. It became like part of the action. Here it's just like VAR review. Wait for what's going to happen.
And the thing about the transparency on when the refs might go, and they talk like, and the Rugby World Cup's just finished, and there's loads of examples there. The referee goes, so I saw this, can you check that? Or VAR comes to him and goes, I think I've got this. I'm just going to, the next image you see will be the best angle. And then says, and then lets the ref view it. And he talks back to the VAR and says, so I'm seeing this. I think it's definitely a foul, it's definitely foul play. It's above the head, but it's not intent. I think a yellow will suffice. Sin bin, blah, blah. And they're communicating their decision. And do we agree we've got to the right position? And the VAR goes, yep, I think you've got the right decision. And then off he goes. And then he explains it. He's still mic'd up, explains it to the players. And so even if you think the referee's got the wrong decision or it has misinterpreted what he's seeing, you can't argue with the rationale. You can, because there's full transparency. You can hear the rationale. You might disagree with how he's looked at that and viewed that. And sports fans still will. They always will. But at least you can see the working, right? Whereas in Scottish football, you've got VAR in the background, and how the fuck have they arrived at that? And it's just frustrating. Like, that's just, what happens. So I think the making of refs and clarity is the number one thing you can do to improve things.
Yes.
Can I just interject there? I can think of 5 contentious goals in the history of football, modern football. Right? Maradona, hand of ball, hand of God. Lampard, Germany game. Jeff Hurst, Clive Allen when the ball went in the FA Cup final, hit the stanchion and bounced out, and then Henry against Ireland in the World Cup qualifier. Right, that's 5, right? If I miss, and then obviously Hugh Dallas and all that, the goals offside and all that. But really, is there a need for VAR anymore? There should be, as Pete McGrath says, Hawkeye. Is it a goal? No. Is it a goal? No. Bang, done, out. It's too much looking at this and stills.
Well, Hawkeye wouldn't have sorted. You'd need VAR for Maradona. Hawkeye wouldn't have sorted it because Hawkeye's just a line technology.
Well,
At the end
maybe
of
that.
the day, you need-
Yeah, but it was a contentious
And
decision.
Thierry Henry, any handball is VAR, right? Any handball's VAR. It's not Hawkeye. Hawkeye's literally
Okay, Jeff
Hawkeye
Hurst, Clive
the
Allen.
Hawkeye technology. We've already using Hawkeye technology well, and it's goal line and it's proper offside technology. That's absolutely spot on. It's as Gav says, it's more direction and interpretation about when they actually get involved, and then once they get involved, the transparency around decision making. They're the two things. There's too much involvement and there's zero transparency, and the rest of us, we're all treated like mushrooms and sort of left in the dark.
It's taken a lot of emotion out of
Well,
the
hold
game.
on the topic of mushrooms. That's a nice little segue. Brings us on to our next little bit, which is food related in a strange way. We're kind of mixing genres here. So it's about food. It's also musical, and it features one of our very own. So this is a bit of a treat from left field, so to speak. See if you can spot anyone familiar in this.
찾았구나 인생 맛집 들어봤나 막강줄이 아이 뭔 노래 우리 웅리 신곡이요 뭘 모르구먼
찾았구나 인생 맛집 여기구나 인생 맛집
들어봤나 막강줄이 맛집 전국 막강줄이
보들보들하니 고소지라이
엄지척이 절로 나고
돌아서면 생각나고
아따 이것이 진짜 고기 맛이지
사시사철 가고 싶고
막강줄이
살찐 것이 입에 쫙쫙 붙지라.
찐맛집 끝판왕
밥도둑 결정판
얼쑤 여기가 으뜸이다
웜에 상다리가 희야잡으러
모두 다 함께 막강줄이
얼쑤
한입 부르르 넘어간다
한숨 수르르 웃음 난다
우리 부르르 쓰러진다
울수수르르 예술인다
뜨끈하니 불끈불끈 힘이 나지라
좋다 모두 다 보이세 남녀소 가족여행
어이야 강지발 좀 볼란가?
맛집의 끝판왕 찾았다 막강줄이
찾았구나 인생 맛집. 찾았다 막강줄이.
Oh.
오.
Now, how does that?
I got the video running.
맛 좀 봐봐
맛있는 광.
Okay,
Thanks for
everyone
that.
back in the room.
Are you?
Yeah.
Did that play smoothly for everyone? Again, that was all over the place for me.
It played fine. It played fine for me.
Yeah. Audio and video were good.
So
Pete McGee's enjoying it, I think, potentially.
don't book him, Dano. Dano, tell us what's the story behind that.
This is a Gwangju City Hall, PR campaign for the cuisine industry here in Gwangju. I mean, amongst Koreans, Gwangju is definitely like the foodie capital of the country. So this is just a general kind of, I think they're calling it mat Gwangjuri, which is kind of funny. I mean, mat or mash is like taste, like deliciousness. So it's delicious Gwangju. And yeah, they're just basically highlighting the incredible cuisine in this city. And yeah, if you're going to Seoul and staying there the whole time for like a foodie tour here in Korea, you have definitely fucked your trip up. You haven't done it right. You got to go down here. You got to come down here for sure. But yeah, it was interesting. It was super early in the morning. I had to get there at like 7:40 and then sit around for like an hour and a half and do nothing. But the crew were kind of a bunch of ornery guys, especially the director and all this kind of stuff. But the cast were hilarious people. The two girls that sang before I did. And yes, we all did really sing our parts. We didn't just lip sync them. They had us go into a back room and record our line together, which was kind of crazy. But the cast were hilarious. Like seriously, like a funny, wild bunch of people once we got to kind of know each other after the first half hour. even the old ladies were hilarious, who owned the restaurant and who were like the wait staff and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just like a PR campaign for the incredible food you can find down here in Guangzhou.
Very
Best
good.
food. Yeah.
Well, so there were 3 Dano appearances. The first one turning round in the restaurant, looking good. The second one was the heads from side to side, and then you went big on the at the end bit, giving it
Yeah.
that. Woohoo.
Jazz hand.
We kind of
Now-
we kind of filmed that for like a while. There must have been like 10 minutes of footage of us just kind of going crazy. They had us jump around and all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. So it's always curious to see what made the final cut type of thing on that.
The head from side to side thing, I detected a little bit of reticence. Maybe it's like, dude, I'm from Chicago. This isn't
Yeah,
cool
yeah,
in
yeah.
Chicago to be doing this.
It's a little,
But in
it's a-
Asia, there's a different idea of what's cool and what's acceptable, isn't there?
it's a little bit, yeah. It's a little bit like kindergartners singing in a school play type of thing, as far as how it strikes me. But you got to go with it. I mean, you're getting
was great.
paid. You got to take it from the directors. But yeah, it was really fun to do, and yeah, everybody, especially in the cast, were super cool. So it's like just one little morning together, and I'm still texting with a lot of these actors and stuff that they had on the cast. So it was
Look at
great.
you. Go Dano. Well, I hope your fee for being on the Celtic World doesn't go up now as a result of that.
yeah.
There's Brian going, what? He's getting paid?
yeah. I mean, presently, hopefully it gets to 0, because I have to pay Gav right now to make the appearances. So
Yeah, if only that was true.
I have to use my health and well-being hour during work to appear.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a thing called health and well-being hour, which you can go for a walk or do whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Well, speaking of health and well-being, as good little Celtic fans, we're now going to turn our attentions to domestic bliss on our next game, which is Aberdeen. I assume we're all looking forward to this. Now then,
Is this our
What
first home
is-
game?
home, yeah.
Man, we have not had any home games.
what's the
this year.
status now?
Oh,
with
we
the
had the Spirit
form?
game.
Let's see.
Yeah, right. But that's a Wednesday game. That doesn't count. You know what I'm saying?
You
It's not like a
forgot about it,
proper
didn't you, Dano?
weekend rock, man.
You forgot about it, Dano.
No, I
Before in the
didn't.
trot-
I
before
didn't. I
home
actually
games.
got up for that.
I think before home games in the trot.
Yeah,
Which is
but like a weekend home game, man. It feels like domestically, it's been over a month, hasn't it? I mean, what was the last? What was the last one on weekend we had? Can't remember. I literally can't remember it. So
St. Johnson, was it?
yeah. I think you're right about that. Yeah.
Nah, Kelly probably.
Mm. Yeah, well, one of these.
So, thanks for chatting amongst yourselves there while I try to locate this. This is the table, obviously. And where are Aberdeen? They're in 7th place with 12
games in hand.
points. Yeah, they've played 10, 2 games in hand on us. That's true. What about the form guide? I thought this was quite interesting. You see that? Oh, no, you can't see that.
Mm.
Gosh darn it. Well, the form guide shows you that, in fact, Aberdeen are 3rd behind us and our fellow Glaswegians. There you go. Aberdeen are 3rd in terms of form over the last few games. So are we expecting them to provide any stiff opposition? Paul, you think we're going to have a hangover from our exertions in Europe, and are we going to be low on
Well,
self-esteem?
we're due a performance, right? We're due a performance. We're due a response. It's unacceptable, right? It's just completely unacceptable what happened the other night. So we're at home. Let's be honest. As I said, Brendan chucked it, and therefore a bunch of players got a rest. Maida got a pretty long rest.
Got a rest in peace.
And so, and look, key players were pulled up. I felt sorry for the back four and Joe Hart, because they were asked to do the full shift, but everyone else got a bit of a break. No, Aberdeen play tonight, so they've got a pretty. It's the game Sunday, so they've got 48-hour turnaround, a bit longer, maybe 72. And we've had 2 extra nights, 2 extra days of rest. As I say, home tie. Hopefully everybody's full strength. I can't imagine they're not. They didn't exert themselves far enough to be injured. And it's not a case of we need a performance. We need 3 points. They've managed to shuffle the fixtures around, so we play after Rangers, despite them playing on a Thursday and us playing on a Tuesday, which was an interesting call. You would have thought that Celtic Aberdeen was a bigger game, and therefore would be the midday game that was on the telly, and apparently that seems to have been juggled. Maybe they're both on the TV at home. I don't know, but I'm not expecting. Aberdeen have been on a reasonably good run, but they've got a terrible record at our place, and they're coming off the back of a tough game tonight. I just don't expect them to be able to back it up, and I expect Brendan to be producing a result. So I'll be pretty bullish on this one. I can only see us winning and reasonably comfortably.
And we would need to. I mean, we talked on the last show about whether we're in a proper league fight, and we also talked about whether we would welcome to be a bit more pressure on the domestic front, which has caused a little bit of a stir on Twitter. We've had quite a few responses to that. Mostly people saying, "What the hell are you talking about? Foot on the throat. I'd happily oversee their death," and things like that, rather than if they get better, wouldn't that be good for us? Because we then have to get better, which was the point. Not let's stand still and let Rangers get better. That was never the proposition. Miofsky, is he the danger man for you, Brian?
It depends if he doesn't get injured or anything like that on Thursday. How do they play on Thursday, guys? Does anyone know? Aberdeen in Europe.
No, I don't know offhand. But while Paul checks that out, let's have a little Miofsky quiz. What's his first name?
Alexander?
No.
Oh. Sorry, I get
Bojan.
flash.
Bojan. I was going to say Bojan, but Bojan.
Yeah, something very Slavic.
What international team does he play for?
Slovenia?
Macedonia?
What's that?
North
Macedonia?
Macedonia. I think they're called
North Macedonia.
North Macedonia.
Yeah.
How old is he?
25?
I thought he was older. I thought he was like, okay.
He's 24. He's still young. And I was a bit surprised by this. How tall is he?
6'2".
He is. He's 189 centimeters, same height as me, 6'2" and a bit. And he's 82 kilograms, which is not the same weight as me. I hasten to
add. So they're playing PAOK Salonika tonight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He's also left-footed and can play as a centre forward or a left winger. So he's, I quite like that rundown of stats there: height, age, all the rest of it.
He's a good player, man.
I can't see he'll be there. I can't see he'll be there next season, to be honest.
Yeah.
No, there's been talk of him being of interest to both big Glasgow clubs, if I'm allowed to say that.
There's only one.
And elsewhere, I think Lazio were interested in him last season.
Well, the big one and the smaller one.
Season. Yeah. Who do we expect to play in this game? Are we going to wheel out Turnbull to do his usual against the low block shooting from just outside the penalty area?
Would you rest Scales? Sorry, what?
I don't think so. But Rodgers does tend to like Turnbull and what he has to offer. I wouldn't be surprised if he started. I mean, if it was me, I've just got this itch to see Holm more often, man. Like, get Holm out there. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he started. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple guys kind of got maybe rotated a little bit, but I would expect kind of a usual suspects lineup mostly, for sure. especially against Aberdeen, who can be dangerous. You want to definitely make sure to get 3 points in this game.
Oh, look, I was pretty bullish in saying we'll win and potentially comfortably, but that's if we go out and play close to our best side and everybody rocks up with a performance. I don't think we can take them lightly. They are one of the stronger teams. I'm more positioned at one because they've got a pretty poor record at our place, and two, they're coming off the back of a game. The teams out, no teams do that well Thursday to Saturday, Sunday. It's a pretty tight turnaround. But clubs like Aberdeen, Hearts, any of them with the smaller squads, it's a lot to be asked of them. And then they've got to traipse down in the bus 3.5, 4 hours, probably the day before the morning off. So there's all of that to contend with as well. I'd like to see home start. I think Tuesday is not a great barometer of what I think he's done enough in his cameos domestically that there's a bit there. I think O'Reilly's got to play. Cal will probably play. The back four will probably play. There's maybe an argument for if Nawrocki's, if he's fit, maybe you start him. But maybe you start him and give CCV a rest if that knee is still playing up. He's been asked to play 2 games in 3 days, or 4 days, or whatever it was. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of rotation, but I don't think we'll see huge amounts of rotation because I think Rodgers will respect Aberdeen. And we need a result. We need a result, I think, and we need a performance because the fan base are we need something to kind of get us back up in a bit of positivity. The one thing we haven't touched on here.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, I was going to say the one thing to be said here, and I don't want to sound like I'm detached from all reality, is that as shocking as this has been, we're actually still in the hunt for something out of this group. Bizarrely, we should be dead and buried. We should be dead and buried.
Completely detached from reality, that Paul.
Well, look, I don't expect to get anything. I don't expect to get anything in Rome, really, but a pretty average side of Lennon's went there and won. We know that Lazio aren't a great side. And yes, both of our first choice wingers are missing. And that's something that's been missed in all of this. Palmer's booking was pretty daft.
Scales.
Is Scales out as well?
I saw that on Twitter. Scales, Palmer, and Maida.
I don't know Scales was out as well.
What, Scales has too many yellow cards, I guess?
I'm not sure if it's true. It must be a accumulation of yellows.
Jeez.
If it's true. I don't know that for a fact. I just saw that. But listen, earlier when we played Thanos thing, Pete McGee said, "This is good. It's taking my mind off Tuesday night." That was the intention of this show. So I've been umming and ahhing about playing another little musical treat because, well, as you know, I'm not very easily embarrassed, but this one really is at the outer limit. It's absolutely excruciating and it's painful. I think Turnbull is going to be off in January, so we're going to run out of time to play it, I suspect. You may disagree with that, but this is not for the faint of heart. It's inspired by Bonnie Tyler, who it turns out has a very large vocal range, and I don't. So, honestly, I would have to say, if you're of a sensitive disposition, please don't listen to this because it's painful.
It looks like Frank's not here.
Taking my headphones out now, Gav.
Turnbull. Every now and then you come on as substitute and people rush to sing your praises. Turnbull. Every now and then you will start in midfield with many competent places. Turnbull. Every now and then with others in purple patches you will want. Hold on.
Keep playing.
Hold on. Can you hear music?
Yes.
Is there music or just vocals?
Both.
Oh, in that case, we'll go back and start again.
That's
I only hear
fine,
myself.
They'll get even more of
I
it.
re-
Here we go.
I
go
can
through it,
only hear. Okay, we won't start again. But I can only hear
Play it
the
again, play it,
vocal.
please.
I can't
Play
hear
it
any of the
again.
backing music. Okay, Jesus, here we go.
On the bench a very long time.
Your best, Jack. Your best,
Gav,
Jack.
Gav, I think you couldn't hear anything because you've gone into like dual personality mode after having recorded that. You know, you got.
I'm surprised my dogs
voice.
aren't kicking off. I'm surprised the dogs aren't kicking off at that.
Fantastic.
At least howling. Oh man, that was brilliant.
That was brutal. It's
That's
hard
your
to
best-
listen to. I
best work.
appreciate that. It was
Best work yet, Gav. Best work yet.
it
Stop
was
being so
hard, it's hard for me.
sycophantic,
even-
Ryan.
No, I love that song actually.
What was even more painful for me was like, see, I've got a new laptop and I haven't quite worked out. I don't know. Some things are different from my end. So all I could hear was my voice, and I couldn't even hear the backing vocals. You know, I could just hear me on it on my own.
we
and
could hear
there
You
was
all-
just
no
hear
I'll-
one of the vocal tracks.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you some props. I was impressed with the mix, the backing vocals, a bit of that, and some of the lyrics were tremendous as always. So yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate the wordsmithery.
The particular highlight
say
for
that.
me was, if I can blow my own trumpet, was no laurels for resting when you're with Brendan. Although we gotta say you look a lot like Stan.
I did enjoy that.
I mean-
I did enjoy that. It was
Hey, hey,
That
convoluted.
was street poetry.
Tell you what,
I've
Gav,
always-
AI is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
That's not AI. That's GI.
Gav,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
GI.
Gav, right. Right.
Oh God.
Oh dear, that is brutal. Okay, now, so we're going to move it on to our Celtic socials. If I can just work this all out. This is really messy now that I can't share. I've got two screens, but I don't have the option to share entire screen, so it makes it very awkward. So after each one of these, I'm probably going to have to disappear. This is my social media choice of the week, and it is a post by Cardiff Boy, who I think Ian probably knows. I met Pat Jennings in London when I started working down there in 1990. He looks the same now. It's a BBC story about a statue of the former Northern Ireland goalkeeper Pat Jennings being unveiled in Newry. And I just thought this was really nice. Pat Jennings was like a hero, wasn't he? Growing up, Brian, you'll remember him very well. He still looks great. He still got the 70s
78.
footballer haircut.
78.
Is he 78 there?
He's
78.
And he's still a
78.
big
78.
strapping man,
He was
He looks
playing for the-
strong
fantastic.
as an ox. And so he's there
Across the
with
divide.
he's there with some of his fellow in 1982 Northern Ireland players, Jerry Armstrong and Polly Hamilton, as you used to do.
Hamilton.
So this made me have a wee look at this. This is a bit more about Pat Jennings. It wasn't his first sport growing up. He played Gaelic football, left school on his 15th birthday and went to work in one of the local linen factories from 8 in the morning until 6. And then he started playing as a goalkeeper, and he was in his local under-19 team at the age of 11. He was their first choice goalkeeper, which is pretty amazing. And then he went on to play for Spurs and Arsenal, and he made his debut for Northern Ireland playing alongside George Best. But unlike Best, he got the 2 World Cups, 82 and 86. Is that right?
86, yeah. I think he was still in his
So
40s. He was still playing.
Yeah, he played for ages. But do you remember him as a goalkeeper? He used to catch the ball at every opportunity, which was amazing. He used to dive and catch it, sometimes with one hand. Absolutely brilliant. What are your memories of Pat Jennings, Brian?
I remember him just lifting the ball. Like, you know, he used to lift the ball off the ground stationary with one hand. Okay, he's just a big gentle giant, you know what I mean? And just a nice guy. He played for Spurs and Arsenal, which not many have done, you know. And there was I don't know anyone has a bad word to say about him. He was a decent keeper, and even I don't know why he was dropped in the '86 World Cup. They put that other balloon in, Jim Platt or John, was that his name? Jim Platt. He cracked up because he wasn't getting the games, and I think Platt came in and Northern Ireland let in too. But no, he was an absolute diamond, Pat Jennings. At 78, he's still fit as a fiddle. You know, amazing keeper.
One of the great things about him is like a guy from our part of the world, Brian, is, you know, our sporting heroes always tend to be flawed geniuses, you know, like George Best and Alex Higgins and all that. But Pat Jennings, absolute gentleman. Everybody speaks very highly of him. Has never, you know, he's kept his nose clean. He's a great ambassador and all that, isn't he?
Yeah, it's been like Martin as well. I saw Martin O'Neill the other night, and I can't believe the age of Martin. What's Martin, 70, 71 or something? He's getting on. Fit as a flea. But as you say, nice guy. Sort of kept himself to himself. You know, Northern Ireland, a lot of people come out with talent and then hit the drink or the other substances. But he was just an overall good guy, good family man. And fair play to him. I think a statue's quite near. There's a statue of Brother Walford. I wonder if it's close by to the statue of Pat. It would be interesting. I'll maybe take a wee scoot down to it someday this week or next week. But an absolute lovely man.
Man, I mean, he must have had
good memories. Oh, go ahead.
He must have had massive paws to be able to palm the ball like that on the move. I mean, because I saw Jordan do that in a couple games live. That's the only guy I've seen like just catch a basketball like one hand, not like cradling it, like boom, like you got to have some mitts to do that. I mean, that's incredible.
Speaking of people who go off the rails, Pete McGee, he spent the night drinking in Morton's Club in central London with George Best through mutual friends. I remember some of it. Very good. Okay, and then Dan, no, is this Brian? Is this your one now?
Oh yeah, it was just on the back of everyone sort of being down the dumps. It could be a lot worse. You could have spent 400 million, and I think it's 400 million transfer window, and this speaks for itself.
What was the score in the game? Copenhagen United
4-3 to Copenhagen.
4-3.
So United
were Korean fan.
United were up 2-0, and Rashford got sent off, and then it went down.
Yeah, man, did they bottle this? More Korean action. Yes,
more Korean action. Yeah,
I get that.
That used to be me in the 90s. No, the 80s. I remember. Up in the Erie Cafe, my bedroom.
Say again.
That used to be me in the bedroom, but watching Celtic on RTA or whatever it was streaming.
That's a
see
classic
his
retro
face here
top
with-
he's got on.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
got a Cantona top on. It's funny
Okay,
because I watched it like in the audio. The way he yells, I mean, in Korea, the F word is shibal.
Face there.
And
I like
when
the
he-
face when that's the face you make
Yeah.
when a goal is about to be scored against your team. God damn it, what's going on with the connection here? Sorry, Dano, I interrupted you. Carry on.
But yeah, he goes down, and then when he finally sits up again, he starts talking to himself. And the way he yells the F word in Korean, it sounds like, I don't know, someone has, getting back to ball squeezing. It sounds like somebody has just squeezed his gonads. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It sounds like an elf yelling it or something. He's so pissed.
Did he have he maybe had a bet on? He maybe had a bet on like
Probably.
six goals in the game. And then the
Yeah, he
fourth
looks
was
like
in.
Watch his face here as the goal goes in just at the start. This is great. Love that.
The best part is
Okay.
he takes all his anger out on like these stuffed animals around the room. Like he has a stuffed giraffe and then like a stuffed panda or something. But he's kind of a stuffed animal himself, and they all just end up down on the floor, just spread around. Oh God, that video is so funny, man.
And Dano, you had something you wanted to share with us. An
Yeah.
image,
This was
which I'm just gonna call up here.
Yeah. Yeah, now to preface it, this was years ago. I was watching like a do or die game for the Chicago Cubs in the playoffs. They were playing the Dodgers, and it was at home. We're feeling pretty good about this. All right, we can win this game. Got a good pitcher going, whatever. And we're losing mid-game like we did on Tuesday night. I mean, it was like 13-0 or something by the end of the fourth inning. And people are like, yeah, some people say it was 6-0 on Tuesday, but that's just like their opinion, man. That's whatever. Don't listen to this bullshit. Like it's all fake news, guys. They're just trying to shove it down our throat. But it kind of reminded me of that. That drubbing on Tuesday was bad, man. It's just bad. But that's how I come back with, oh man, you guys really took a beating. I've got a couple of football fans at the radio station, and they're like 6-0, and I'm just like, yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Okay, so
If only that were true.
if we just roll on, man, gotta take your punches. We had a bad day. It's all right.
And Paul, you wanted to raise something?
Yeah, so I spotted this on social media right before we came on air, so I didn't have a chance to forward it. But yeah, just a bit of sad news. I know it's feeling like we've tried to pick people up and have a more positive spin on what's been a rough week, but it's literally just this news is just broken. Chris Kamara, Cammy, for any of us that have watched Sky Sports over the past 25 years, he's gone public that he's been diagnosed with apraxia of speech. So he left Sky Sports quietly earlier this year, and it turns out that that's the reason why he's been diagnosed with it. It's a neurological disorder that basically affects the brain pathways in speech. So for a guy who, he was a modest footballer who did pretty well at Leeds and Stoke and Bradford and a few other clubs, but basically was much more well known for his sort of punditry, co-commentary, and his live reporting on Soccer Saturday. The Cammy sort of famous clips. There's tons of them, and I guess it's for all of us that are football fans, there's stuff there that you just they've given us loads of laughs and loads of positive times. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that and sort of hope that he's going well with it. And yeah, it's just a wee bit of sad news that's gone public, but obviously he's been dealing with it for a while. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of highlight that and say that it's been a positive. He's added positively to not just obviously social media, but media in general in football for a long time. So yeah, wish him well.
Absolutely. And Pete McGee echoes those sentiments. Thank you so much, Pete McGee, for your sterling work in the comments section responsible for a lot of comments tonight. All right. Well, on that slightly a bit of a downer, thanks for that, Paul, on this episode where we're trying to elevate people's mood. And both Dano and I put our necks on the block in order to do so. Hope you appreciated that sacrifice. All right. Well, onwards and upwards. Next game's Aberdeen. Back to Porridge. I'm sure it'll all be wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen, as well for joining us, Paul, Brian, and Dano. And we'll see you on the next show. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.